list.
Yep, totally making a list. So welcome to Inside the Upside Down, where tonight we're going to be talking about why we write ghost stories and why we write about our paranormal experiences, which is what I said when I was actually muted. But you know what? Even multi-million-dollar shows have their technical glitches and mistakes. So.
Okay.
It's true. It's true. So, all right. So, yeah, we just came out with a new book, Encounters with the Paranormal, Volume 4. In fact, we even have a nice little, that's Adam Tillery's drawing from number 3, which there's more fantastic artwork from Adam Tillery in number 4. But that is that's the cover of number 4 there. So, which features the fairy plantation. And you guys submitted a lot. There's just over 200 pages worth of content in this book. A lot of people submitted ghost stories. There are a lot of lengthy ones in there too. It was the most ever that we'd had for contributors for one of the Encounters with the Paranormal series. So really want to thank you guys for doing all that. But there's a lot of reasons why we do this. It's not just so that we can put a book out there so people can buy it and make a few dollars. Ultimately that happens, of course, but that's not why we do it. That's not the passion that's behind it. And a lot of it, we'll get into a lot of different reasons as to why we write and do different types of writing and things like that. Because Shauna is a writer in and of herself as well. But the main aspect that I like to point out about this, and yes, part of the proceeds do go to help the different historic locations that we feature. Like this one's a fairy plantation. But I mentioned this in each of the forewords, is that you're not alone. Almost everybody has a ghost story. And by sharing your experience, by, and for many of those that have contributed, it was the first time that they talked about a particular experience. And by sharing that, there are others out there that are reading these books and are able to relate to your particular experience. And they've been shut away for a while, they've kept a secret or what have you. And by reading that, they realize that they are not alone, that there are other people in this world that have also had these experiences, that they are not crazy. And it gives them some of that courage to go ahead and open up and talk about what they've experienced. And to me, that's really the big thing, at least with this particular series of books.
Yeah. I didn't experience anything for a long time, for a big portion of my life. And then by the time that I did, I really wasn't surrounded by a lot of people that were really all that vocal about it. I knew my family didn't, and so, but through the power of haunted buildings everywhere is how you find your people. I just happened to, find mine, working in the same building. And then we started sharing stories. And then our little lights, came on. And then pretty soon other people started coming in and everybody had a story. And that's how it starts. It just takes, one person, to be brave enough to come out.
Yeah, just break that dam.
Yeah, so you're not only helping yourself by getting it off your chest, but you're also helping somebody else be brave to do the same thing.
Yeah, great story, true story, and it has to do with that house in Edmond that we investigated that was on the show The Haunted. This was before Shauna. But that family there had held their secrets for 20 years. They were all living in the same household. They were all having their own experiences with what was going on there. Some was okay, and some others, not so okay, and which is why we ended up getting called in. But they held on to those secrets for about 20 years until finally one of them piped up at the dinner table and said, "So, I've been experiencing this. If you guys had that too." And then boom, they sat there for what they said was like hours just relating different experiences that they had over a couple of decades. So they could have been helped much sooner rather than have to go through all of these years of things building up, escalating. The son, by then the older son had already moved out of the house and was gone. He did not want to ever sleep there again, because he experienced what he called a wrestling match that he couldn't see going around in his room. So some entities fighting in his room, and things were getting knocked over and all that. And then of course Taliesin was seeing the thing with the red eyes, which is when we came into it. But yeah, I mean, because they didn't feel comfortable opening up about it. And so that's a big thing about this book series, is that there's people from all walks of life that have contributed to this, people from all over the world, stories from all over the world, so there's a little bit of everything in there that you might not be able to relate to my story or Shauna's story, but you might be able to relate to Tom's or Vanessa's or Donna's or Stephanie, who we just had on the show Edge of the Rabbit Hole here a few minutes ago. So you might be able to relate to somebody else's story that's in there.
Is Dawn in there still? I hope I never relate to any of your stories, Dawn. If I ever start seeing
the spiders,
astral or ghostly spiders of any kind, I'm going to be hunting somebody down to find an off switch.
Yeah, she had that story in number 3, the third one.
No thanks.
Yeah, and Adam did a great job with that.
Thanks, Adam.
That one too, with that illustration. So since I did mention Tom McNicholas, got to throw out there, happy birthday, Tom!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! So, and I did see people down there commenting about the when to receive the copies of Encounters with the Paranormal 4. So here's the weird thing about Amazon. So I know Tom already has this copy because he went ahead and ordered one anyway, even though he gets a free one. And so, 2-day shipping, and boom, Amazon, sends it. And Amazon does the printing for Haunted Road Media, yet if you order through the publishing services, which is how I have to order everything through for everybody, it's taking, when it comes up to the holidays, it's from October all the way through the new year. The shipping time on it is ridiculously slow. So it would normally take a week and a half, which isn't too bad, 7 to 10 days. It takes a couple of weeks now. So some of you, you might get them next week. You might get them the week after. I don't have much control over that, but I've put in the orders, so it is what it is.
I've never even read it yet.
What?
I haven't even read it yet. So.
Well, no.
I'm patient.
Yeah. So we'll be getting a box of 20 of them though, because we'll have them. We should have them in time. We should. At least that was the estimated time. We should have them in time for the Dark History event.
I read Beat 3 and Candy's stories though.
Yeah, I'm trying to help with a little bit of the editing there. So
yeah.
So $10 super chat from Andrew Cox. What about shadow spiders ghosting, buddy?
Shut up, Andrew. Those don't exist. I don't care what anybody says. And if they don't exist in my mind,
apparently Dawn and Stephanie have both seen them. Dawn much more so.
To me, they don't. They don't exist to me personally. So if I feel that strongly about them, hopefully I will never see them.
But see, here's a cool thing that we just happened with that last show. Okay, so Dawn submitted her story last year. She's been experiencing her stuff for years with the spiders. Yeah. Stephanie, last show, basically just confirmed what Dawn had been experiencing. She had a similar experience. Not as much as Dawn has experienced, but she still did have a similar experience as Dawn.
A dinner plate sized tarantula coming at me from my ceiling, I would have died.
Dawn has ones bigger than that coming out of her closet. Ugh. But basically, she just confirmed, boom. Yes, that happens.
Coming out of your closet. Well, keep the door shut. Does that matter? I don't remember. It's been a while since I would be bolting that closet. I mean, no.
I would probably just take the closet out, just board it up, maybe make it another room or an addition to the room that's on the other side or something like that. So I still have a closet.
Yeah.
I don't know, but and Donna's saying that her spider had red eyes. Yeah, I don't think Stephanie said anything about the eyes, but just the fact that, excuse me, just the fact that it was a ethereal or astral spider or something like that. To me, that's at least a part of that confirmation, which is why we invite people to share these stories. Yeah. So, Pamela Rainey, I'm going to hit show on that one. She says, "Fuck spiders."
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I say.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just all around, it's a good thing. Sharing your story like that so that others can connect with it. For some people who have submitted stories, and I'm not going to name names on this, but I think for some people that have submitted stories to these books, I think it's also become therapeutic for them, because maybe they haven't related the story before, or this is the first time that they've had a chance to actually write down what happened to them. And I've had people that have just thanked me for giving them the opportunity to write their story and have it published, because they just need to get it off their chest. And so right. I think it becomes a bit therapeutic for them.
I believe that. Talking about your experiences and stuff like that, when you're trying to rationalize stuff inside your head, sometimes it helps to just say it out loud. Especially if it's something that's really dramatic, especially if it's something that's really kind of overwhelming and stuff like that, or the stuff that keeps you up at night. I feel it's just like purging. It gives it less energy inside, so it's a little easier to deal with to just get it out. That's the way I look at it.
So Dawn is saying, "I asked my brother what he thought of my story about spiders in Volume 3, and he would not reply." Tom McNicholas says, "I was never asked to write down my stories before." Well, you're in there, so you got that opportunity, which is awesome. So yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a first opportunity for people to be able to do so. Sharon Lane says, "I write paranormal fiction as therapy. I write for myself," and a lot of people do that, which is great. Yeah, it is like a form of therapy. Whether it's fiction or nonfiction, or however somebody wants to be able to relate their story or what they're feeling or whatever's going on, inside.
I think, I want to write. I do. Maybe I should just do audiobooks. Because I can talk all day long. It seems like I can say anything, but when it comes to like the start or putting the words down, I'm like, so okay. Well, maybe I can talk all day long.
Well, maybe you should just do your own podcast, because when you do an audiobook, basically it's structured. You're reading the book. So you basically have to write it down first and then read it, and then you have your audiobook. So maybe you should just do a podcast. We got all the equipment here. Start with like doing Facebook Live stuff.
When? I work during prime time.
Saturday mornings with Shauna.
Oh God.
I mean, Saturday Shauna. I don't know. It's an idea though. I mean, So per Andrew, could spiders be another type of crawler? I don't. Yeah, it's a good question. I understand.
Literally, though.
I understand why the question, because they are literally crawling. But no, I think they're two different entities. I think they're two different types of entities.
Funny.
Yeah. But I get it. Sharon Lane says, "Shauna, you need to write your book, please."
I don't. If I'm gonna do it, it's gonna be about.
I gotta do this.
I don't even know.
So Tom McNicholas says Adam is now going to draw spiders. Tom, he has.
Yes.
So we're going to show you.
Gross. No,
yep,
I don't want to.
It's happening. So yeah, I got to go to this one because that's going to be in the correct directory. So here it comes.
Oh God.
It's right here. Spiders of Darkness. There they are.
Yuck.
Yep.
Gross.
I mean, because you got the one big one, and you got all these little ones up in there. So that's from Dawn's story from volume 3.
Thanks, Dawn.
Spiders of Darkness. So Tim says, if Shauna writes her book, I am a guaranteed sale. That's awesome. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, and so they're all laughing down there about spiders. It's funny.
Yeah, I had a pop up in my memories, the see your memories thing. Some of my status is about spiders that I've had over the years.
Oh yeah, the one you read me last night was ridiculously funny from like 4 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, because that poor man, it was pretty entertaining for him. But there was a jumping spider in my car. I thought it was on the outside of my windshield, right? So I was going to turn on my wipers and fling the little bastard, and it wasn't on the outside, it was on the inside. And it jumped from my dash. Meanwhile, I'm trying not to wreck my car because it's inside the vehicle with me. So I'm like, oh my God, where am I going to pull over? Where am I going to stop? Thankfully, in Illinois, there's a lot of country roads and there's a lot of wide open spaces and stuff to pull. There's no traffic or anything. So I very quickly pulled over, and there was somebody behind me who was honking the horn and stuff like that. But in my defense, that thing jumped from my dash to my passenger seat. If it had jumped over to me, I would not be sitting here today because I would probably have wrecked and died. I mean, for real. But I'm like, I get out of my car, right? And I go and I open the passenger side door, and I'm screaming at the spider to get the hell out. Okay, like it's gonna listen to me. But then I'm doing the gross, what do I do? Where do I go? I can't kill it because I don't want to touch it. I don't want to be near it. And then this guy comes along, and he's laughing. He's like, ma'am, are you okay? And I was like, no, there's a spider. And it jumped. It's a jumping spider, and it's big, and it's in my car. Can you kill it? Right? And so he's like, so he takes off his shoe. Okay, and so he goes in to do it, and he backs up. He's like, wow, that's really big. And I was like, but you still have to kill it, please kill it. So he murdered it for me. And then puts his shoe back on. And I had a shirt in my back seat that I was basically kind of using for a dust rag whenever I dusted out the inside of my car, just an old hold up t-shirt, right? So we used that to scoop up the remains, or he did, after I convinced him that he had to be the one to do it because I couldn't do it. And I told him it's like when you kill somebody, it's your responsibility to dispose of the body. So since you killed the spider, you have to dispose of its remains. So we did.
Shauna talking about body disposal.
Right. I had caution tape in my trunk.
Just in case. You never know when you need to.
Never know when you're going to need to rope off an area. And that's
awesome.
I've said that. I have said that.
It's awesome.
People are, why you have caution tape in your trunk? Well, you never know when you're going to need to rope off an area.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's my spider story.
So one more comment about spiders. We'll get back on topic here. So B3 Aerospace says wolf spiders jump. Yeah, my first ever encounter with a wolf spider, and then like I said, we'll get back on topic. I had woken up in the morning, was headed about to get ready for work, all that stuff. I didn't have my glasses on. Of course, I'm wearing contacts right now, and my vision is terrible. I have like 2,500 vision, and I'm looking down, and I see what seems to be a sizable something crawling across the floor. So I assume spider. Like, okay, I'm looking down. Oh, yeah, I think that is a spider. So I'm wearing my slippers. So I step on it, and it didn't just squish. It went like poof. And I saw like this little cloud.
Oh my God, no.
And I'm like, what the hell is that? So I look like down really close. I'm like, holy shit. And I see all these little tiny spiders going all over the place. I'm like, holy crap, what the hell was that?
No.
And so I'm like, stomp to get the rest of them. That was my first encounter with the wolf spider. I was like, holy crap. Just look at her.
I would have died. I'm going to have nightmares.
It would. Poof.
Gross. Oh, no.
So, so back on topic. Now we've had our spider moment. Sharon Lane is saying, Shauna, at least another episode about the haunted cafe. Now, she did write a story in, I think it was number 2, about the cafe, and that's when Byron came in.
That's when Byron
and
happened.
So that story is in Encounters with the Paranormal Volume 2. So
That building is for sale still for $800, but you have to buy it as is without looking inside of it.
Oh, is that the final information you got on it?
Yeah.
You have to buy it as is without looking?
They don't even have keys. They'd have to basically get permission to break in. I'm like,
Okay.
well,
Didn't you find out who had the keys?
nope.
I know you were working on it. You
Nope, I
never
was
found out?
talking to Jeannie, who's probably not watching, but she doesn't have keys anymore. And she
She
said
doesn't know
so.
who she gave them to?
She just done with the building and just
who'd she
didn't
give
have
it to?
keys. She didn't.
And what'd she do with the keys?
Locked it and walked away. And then,
Okay.
but for a while,
Did she
but for a
drop
little
the
bit
keys
there,
or walk
no,
off
she
with them?
just
Threw the
just
keys
done.
into the yard?
Just done. Just got rid of keys. Done.
Okay, but got rid of the keys where?
Well, I guess they no longer exist in her realm of existence. They're just gone. She no longer has the keys.
Love how cryptic this is.
Yeah. So she no longer has keys, but the place that has the building now still lists her as prior owner, and she said that as far as she was concerned, as far as she knew, she wasn't still the owner. And
we
so
have
I
some
was
more
like,
follow-up to do on that. So
But
I want to
yeah.
get in there, and I don't know if I just want to drop $800 on a building that is probably going to be condemned anyway,
I mean, the front floor is
and be
caved
responsible
in.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, the front floor is caved in. So at least wanted to get in and, look and see how bad it is. Even if it's going to be condemned, I just wanted to get in there just one more time.
Right.
Just to, even just to get just closure. Because I never really got to say, goodbye at all. I mean, I just, I stopped being able to get in there, as often. And then finally, we just didn't have access anymore. And I just want to know if he's still in there, you
Right.
know, or if anybody's. I just want to know who's still in there.
Yeah, just kind of one last little.
Yeah.
And I've never been in there, so I've always wanted to at least get in there one time and just check it out because I've heard so much about it through all of Shauna's stories, which you could literally write a cafe book. You could.
I was talking to Rita. I don't know if she's watching or not. I was talking to her, and I was like, we really need to write a book.
You could write a book and through Haunted Road Media, and there you go.
She's a wonderful writer. Rita
All
is a
right.
wonderful writer, and very little editing.
Nice.
Hardly any really editing at all. That woman can write like a dream. So I'm saying that would be an easy book to get out there. And I told her, I was like, even if it's just, one day a week,
Yep.
get together and just get that thing hammered out because it's a good one. Just collab on it and publish
There
it
you
and
go.
get it out there.
There you go. Tom McNicholas says you should write your stories that you're scared of. It can help. Absolutely. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways that writing the stories can help. I mean, through our books, like with the Encounters with the Paranormal books, helps in a couple of different ways. I mean, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with people being able to connect with some of the different stories that people can relate to. Of course, we talked quite a bit about being therapeutic for the people that are writing it, and then of course part of the sales go to help these different places. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that it can help. And even some of these other I would even say like my Ghosts of Maryland book, the Ghosts and Legends of Oklahoma, which aren't through Haunted Road Media. That was before I started Haunted Road Media. People are being made aware of those locations and being made aware of some of those ghost stories. So even on some level, people can relate to some of the experiences, and people are made aware of these places, and kind of drive some tourism to some of these different places, and it helps them out. So. Beat Through Airspace asks, how many spirits do you think are in the cafe, Shauna?
Oh my God. Well, there were at least just the regular ones that were in there, the ones that we heard all of the time. We knew there was a Native American in there. There's like a whole family in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were at least at all times 8 to 10 different spirits in there that we knew by name. But that doesn't count the ones that were just kind of passing through. Where we would hear just different, voices that we hadn't heard before. And then some of them I could positively ID just because I knew them when they were alive. And so, and I had actually seen them in full, apparition form, like they're just boom, there, and then to hear their voice on audio also, there was no, like, I'm very seldom 100% sure about anything. I'm 100% sure about some of the ones that I had seen in there and that I had heard on audio. Just because I knew them when they were still alive.
Right.
So, I didn't, I never knew Byron, of course, because
he was long before you.
He was long before me. He was there before the building. He wasn't even attached to the building itself. He was just attached to the property. And then, there's a little girl in there also. And we don't believe she was attached to the building at all either. We think she was attached. And I kind of feel like she probably drowned on the property. Just because whenever she manifested, it was always with wet feet.
Right. Yeah, I remember you mentioning her before.
And none of the others, Byron didn't do that. I had seen her, and to be honest, whenever I first moved to the area, I was just randomly talking to the lady one of the ladies that works at the post office. And we were talking about how one morning the power went out and my alarm didn't go off, but I very vaguely remember somebody waking me up. And my kids weren't there. It was on a weekend, and they were with their dad. But in my half awake, state, I thought it was one of them. And then I realized, I didn't have any girls, first of all. And then my kids weren't there. So who woke me up? And then, so I was just randomly just talking out loud to myself while I'm getting the mail, trying to figure it out, and then she overheard me and she was like, oh, where do you live? And so I was like, I was thinking out loud. That's great. Great. I just moved back home to the area and already people are going to think I'm nuts. So I just blurted it out there. She's like, oh yeah. She goes, there's like 3 or 4 houses in this area that have little girls. She just comes in and wakes them up. I'm like,
nice.
Oh, okay. Well,
there you go.
There we go. I was like, do you know these people? Because, I want to talk to everybody about it now, and everybody else is experiencing the same thing. So, but then I remember her voice, and at first I thought it was the first little girl that I encountered, like, ever. The very first ghost that I saw. At first I thought it was her, but the voices were different. And then I started hearing that same little voice in the cafe, and so kind of figured that maybe she might
following you around,
hang out there,
or then she just hangs out there. Okay.
Yeah, well, this was before I even started working at the cafe. I hadn't even started working there yet, so I don't know if she came from there and just was hitting everybody up in the vicinity.
Yeah, maybe she was going around the town.
Yeah,
maybe.
So I don't know.
So Rick Gabbert asked me, and we have a $10 super chat here from Tom McNicholas. It says, put this towards buying the cafe.
Oh.
I mean, honestly, I could buy the cafe, but it is such a liability. Just, with the insurance that we'd have to get on and everything, because somebody could break in there or fall down the freaking, into the basement because there's no floor in the front of the first floor. It floods all the time. It's a building that should really probably be condemned.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it structurally, but from everything that I've heard, it's been sitting there for a few years now with no work on it whatsoever. It would be a major liability. So while it's extremely cheap for a building, there's a lot of cons that go along with it.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I do want to call and do a follow-up and be like, look, I've talked to your previous owner that you have listed, and then I've talked to you. You know, somebody took, you know, this place that doesn't have keys, you know, somebody, you know, took off, you know, whatever locks were in place before and just jimmied something else, you know, there. And
Well,
you can
is
see
there
inside.
anybody that can just like give us like a little bit of permission to be like, yeah, you can walk in, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
but they would be assuming that liability. So.
Right. I mean, you know, I know they don't know me from Adam, but you know, when I say something happened at home, I mean if something happens to me, I know the risk that happened at home. You know, I'm an adult. You know, I'm not trying to, you know, go intentionally, you know, put myself at risk, you know, with the intention to make money off of, you know, people like that. That's not what it's about. I have insurance.
Right.
You know, so if I get hurt, you know, I fell. You know.
Yep.
It is what it is. I fell. So.
All right. So from Rick Gabbert, have you ever been to Gettysburg before, Mike Ricksecker? Yeah, I used to live about 45 minutes from there, so I've been to Gettysburg several times. I haven't really written about Gettysburg. Just, I mean, the one book I did was Ghosts of Maryland, which is probably the closest. Which probably I think it got a couple of little mentions just because of the proximity. I know there's like one little video on this channel somewhere concerning Gettysburg. It's an old one. Yeah, I've been there several times. Love it. It's a fantastic historic location. In a lot of ways, it's also been overdone to some degree, just because everybody goes there, everybody loves it, everybody covers the paranormal there. I'm always willing to get back there whenever the opportunity arises. So yeah, it's a great place. So getting back on topic though. So yeah, why we write about you know, paranormal experiences and ghost stories and things like that. You know, and we covered a lot of great reasons for the Encounters book, but some of the other things that we write about, you know, there's a lot of paranormal research that we do. So, you know, part of the writing is in trying to figure out and determine, you know, whether it's like paranormal history or, you know, supernatural activity or something like that, where we're trying to, you know, take that research that we've done and try to organize it and try to figure out different aspects of the paranormal. And that's where a lot of the videos come into play too. And a lot of the topics that we cover on, you know, Inside the Upside Down, Edge of the Rabbit Hole, and, you know, a lot of the other videos, you know, we're trying to hash out a lot of those different ideas. And so, like, well, I'm in the middle of writing the Shadow Person book. So it all comes into play into writings like that. And not just the books themselves, but also, I mean, I don't do it as often anymore because of time. I just don't have all the time, but like a blog and stuff like that. But it comes out a lot in the videos, I guess. And then the other thing that we've talked about a lot of times here on Haunted Road Media channel is passing on that information. So, you know, we're bringing in all of this information, we're researching, we're discovering things that have been lost to time, and you know, we need to pass that information on, otherwise it's going to get lost again. Like the cemeteries that we were just at, those cemeteries are essentially lost to time. They're back there in the woods, and you know, people don't remember that they're back there. But we've done that also with the research that we've done, like you coming across those you know, ghost stories, those articles, those old articles from Alton, excuse me, from the late 1800s and early 1900s. You know, so you know, we're doing stuff with that. You know, and that was a great find. Stuff. Oh yeah,
great stuff in there.
Yeah, some amazing things that have been lost to time, and people just, yeah, and people just don't even realize that they're there. And I saw that, I think it was Sharon Lane had asked if we're doing some more things on Alton, or there's another Alton video coming out, and yeah, there is, because in that research that we've done, we've found some interesting connections between a couple of the ghost stories and some incidents that happened within Alton. And so when that first episode comes out, you know, it's basically like two different stories. They were both found by Shauna from back then in these old news articles, and just researching them independently and then finding out that they have a common thread that go together. was very, very cool. So I'm really looking forward to that first episode coming out. But yeah, that's, another thing right there, where the writers back then, they're writing those ghost stories, 125 years ago, they were writing that stuff.
And some of the stuff was really funny too.
Oh, the way they write it. Yeah. His ghost ship.
His ghost ship.
Yeah. Like it would be like his lordship or something like that, but they would say his ghost ship. It's funny. So you're even learning about how, they used to write back then, but those guys back then were chronicling those events, and without those people writing back then, 100 and 125 years ago, Michelle Hamilton's coming out with a book with us here very soon, where she stepped back even a few years further into the past, about 150 years ago, with the Civil War. Hers are specifically around the Civil War time frame, and so those people were chronicling ghost stories and paranormal events and all that back then, 150 years ago. And so, while they're journalists and all that, they're still chronicling the news at the time and the events that happened for the people at that time to learn about and experience. And maybe some of those stories got passed down through word of mouth. I don't know how many people may have saved some clippings from back then or whatever, but thanks to the newspapers keeping an archive of their distribution, and libraries doing the same, those are accessible to us now. And so 150 years later, we're able to access that and see this chronology of or this archive of ghost experience and paranormal experiences from back then. So that's another reason, is just as a record, so it's passed on to the next generation. Instead of reinventing the wheel, we can look back then and say, oh, okay, this was happening and this was happening, and that's the way this went down, and this happened there. Information that we didn't have before. So, Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast, continuing to eat popcorn. Donna Gorton, would you ever buy a haunted location for research purposes? Well, if we bought the cafe, that would essentially be the purpose of it. I would not open it back up as a cafe.
No.
I wouldn't have. That's not where my passion is in running a cafe or a store or whatever out of there. So it would only be for paranormal purposes. Yep. So and we'd have to be careful with that, because I think some of these different places that are trying to open up as paranormal research locations are treating the spirits like guinea pigs, and that I would not want that to happen.
Those spirits in there, at least some of them, had become like friends, like almost like family. Like did not want to leave them. I did not want to move from the area. I would have stayed there. My own family lives there, right. But I was near the boat and I was near the cafe. I was just near everything was just, right there. And I had built up, from going in there just daily, sometimes daily, nightly, every day, every night. And I was always in there, even if just for 5 minutes, just real quick in and out, and to have, one-on-one, conversations, where sometimes it'd be like, I know, please let somebody else be going through this, because, nobody would ever believe me except for, the people that, investigate in there with me. So yeah, I really need to write all this stuff down.
Yeah. Write down those experiences. And B3 Aerospace was also saying that you need to do a audiobook. You definitely have the voice for it.
I love to talk. I'm a phone person, I'm a face-to-face person, I can speak to just, a camera, I can speak to a room full of people. I don't care. I just like to talk. But whenever I go to write down what I'm talking about, you know.
Oh, you're a fantastic writer as well.
Whatever just severs. It's like, boom, you know, only when I'm like crunch time, like I have to get this out, like I usually am for the encounters.
Yeah,
books.
yeah. Usually Shauna's last minute on getting the story out.
I'm not the only one now. No.
Yeah, but I'm also the publisher and I'm working on everybody else's story.
Right. So then it's like, okay, I need to pump this out, and then just boom, you know, and then that's how it happens for me. It's like, okay, I don't have a choice. I've got to write it. For me, it's hard to start, you know, and then, you know, I have all of these stories and all these thoughts, but they're just kind of like, well, this happened and this happened and then this happened. There's no like, you know, glue that leads one into the other. I don't have like I don't do things. I don't see things. I don't, you know, visualize anything in chapter form. It's just always scenes or stories, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I gotcha.
And so that's my problem. And then I'll obsess about it so much, trying to be like, why can I not get this? And then I'll just lose everything that I just had. So I'm like, well, okay. So I'll just wait. You know, I figure it'll either come to me or it won't. And I'll just do audiobooks.
There you go. Donna says, oh, like that UK show Most Haunted makes me nuts how they push for spirits to perform like circus animals, and that's their only goal is to get activity. Yeah, most shows are like that. Most shows are just, you know, to push for activity. And I've witnessed, I don't know how many paranormal investigations that is just, I mean, we talk about it all the time here on the channel about how, you know, it's not just about going in and, you know, treating them like guinea pigs and trying to get activity and, you know, how many times have we talked about, you know, walking into somebody's house and saying, you know, open a door, knock on the wall, make a sound, hit me. I mean, it's ridiculous.
There's a way to ask. There's a way to get a response without being disrespectful about it. You know, it's like, look, you know, we're here, you know, to talk to you, to see you, to interact with you. But first we have to be able to find you. You know, where are you at? You know, what room are you in? Do you want to talk? Do you want to get to know us? Do you know, is it okay? You know, could we? We'd really like to. We
introduce ourselves first. I mean, we treat it like we're, you know, like we're knocking on somebody's door and saying, hello, you know, I'm Mike, this is Shauna. And, you know, we have a whole, you know, almost like a little process that we do to introduce ourselves.
Yeah. And then it's like, you know, this is the room that we're in. This is the building that we're in. You know, I can feel like you're close by, but I cannot see you at all, you know. So if you could let me know where you're at, however you want to let me know where you're at. You know, if you want me to see you, fine. If you don't want me to see you, you know, do something so that I can find you in the room. I've explained it before on the boat 1,000 times. It's like being blind and not being able to see anything. And then all of a sudden, you know, someone lets you know where they're hiding at, and you're like, oh, okay. You know, when you put it that way, they're like, well, okay, maybe I'll do something, you know. Yep. And to me, that's kind of the way they're thinking. Maybe I'll do something.
Well, you got to build that. You got to build that rapport with the spirit first. It's, you know, a lot of these investigations, and you know, even the first time we go into a place, you know, it's kind of hit or miss because, you know, they're just meeting us for the first time, and so that's really, you know, something that's troublesome with like a public hunt or you know, just traveling all over the place. And, you know, we travel, but, you know, it's so, you know, people are just running in, you're trying to get activity, you know, and the spirit, I can't imagine the spirit's like it's, you know, people are running through all the time with the same questions, with all these weird gadgets, and, yeah. You got to be strange from their perspective. So Betty Lange says, Shauna, do not write it. Use a tape recorder and tell it, and let Mike edit it from a tape recorder.
Oh God.
You know how long it took me. You know how long it took me to transcribe that final chapter in the Fairy Plantation book. I thought it was going to take me. I mean, it was an hour-long interview, but basically the meat of the conversation was about 20 minutes, and it took me over 3 hours to transcribe that. So no.
Or maybe
Shauna's a very good writer. Her story, like the one that she wrote for the not the, her collab with Rob, but the one that she wrote on her own for the Encounters 4. That's all Shauna. The only thing I did as far as editing was I separated out the paragraphs, and there were like a couple of corrections with commas.
A time I worked that in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it was in the middle of the night. It was written very well.
Exhausted.
Shauna's a good writer.
Oh my God.
She's a good writer.
I was like, I don't know if it's perfect, but here it is.
Sharon Lane asks, what is your writing process, Mike? Does it come like a wave? That's how fiction is for me. My writing process is varied because of just the way my life works. Like my first book, it took me about 3 years to write, and a lot of it got written during lunchtime, and I would just have to, I basically would make myself do it. I had a story that I wanted to get out, and it was like piecing it together little by little, methodically. I'm raising very young kids at the time, so very busy. And, there was like the last few chapters, it was like, I want to get this out, I want to get this out, I want to get this out. So I was like up late at night just getting it out. So the ghost books, when that came along, a lot of upfront research. It wasn't just like the fiction writing that I did, because my first book was a fiction book, and I had some of that story for the fiction book written when I was in high school. Some of the first lines in that first chapter I actually wrote in high school. So that character's been around for a while. But then when it came to the ghost books, it was a lot of upfront research. It was a bit different for me, going to all these locations and getting this information and taking the photographs and doing the research, interviewing people, very different. So it was like I was gathering all this information up front and then spitting it out afterward. My Oklahoma book, to get that to meet the deadline, and I wanted it to hit that deadline. I did not want to miss it. I mean, Schiffer was really good in that, if you were going to miss a deadline, that's okay. We'll get you the next publishing cycle. And so they push out the deadline like 6 months. But I didn't want to push it out 6 months. I wanted to get it done. So I locked myself in a room for a month. I mean, I'm dead serious. I'd come home from work, make dinner. Hey kids, how's it going? Start writing, and then come out a couple hours later is okay. Time to get the kids to go to bed, get them ready for bed, and all of that. And then after they went to bed, it was like boom, right back on the room. And for that month, that's basically the way it was. As far as the way it is now, it's like I'll sit down. It's like, okay, I want to write something, and like the first few minutes, I'm like, how do I want to start this? Where am I going with it? And it's like the first few minutes are a little bit of a struggle. It's like I know in my head what I want to write about, but how do I start it? Where do I get going at? Once I start, boom, I'm gone. I'm off to the races. There we go. And that's usually true in most cases. People will ask me about writer's block and things like that. I don't really get that. I refuse writer's block. I mean, I'll get to I'll be writing, and I'll get to a part where I'm like, shit. What do I do here? What do I do here? What do I do here? I'll come back to it. I stop. So I know what I want to write in other places. And doing the nonfiction stuff is a bit different because it's all, you're doing a location here, you're doing a location there, so it's different. But when you're doing the fiction stuff, I know how I want to start. I know the location where I want to start, and I know where I want to go with the story. Everything in between is a journey. And as I'm writing and going along, different things are coming to mind. Oh, I want to have them do this eventually, and I want to have them do that eventually. So I have ideas of where the story is going to go as I start writing. And so if I get stuck in one of those places, I'll stop. And then it's like, well, I know I want to go here with the story, so I'll start writing some of that. And once I get through some of that, it's hit me. Oh, I know how he's going to get there, and I'll go back and I'll write that. So that's how it goes. So, Sharon, I hope that answered your question.
My book is probably going to start out like, I have no idea where I'm going with this. But hi, this is who I am. This is where I ended up. now I'm going to somehow take you guys on the journey to how I even got there. Enjoy. That's probably the beginning of my book. I don't know.
So Betty says, Mike, Shauna, our chat is like writing personal stories each week, sharing. Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, yeah.
You could all be writers.
Yeah. I mean, doing what we do here, sharing, sharing about our experiences, sharing about other people's experiences or things that we've learned or whatever. And then, we have the back and forth with the chat room. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just a different medium. It's the same thing, just a different medium, So instead of writing it down, in a book form and you pick up the book and read it, and we're doing it in a video over the internet live, So, so what else did we miss while I was going on and on and on? So, Mike, have you written a paranormal how to research and visit places? We did a show on that. It was an Inside the Upside Down on how we do research. I have in the past done a nuts and bolts presentation on that, where we get into the different online resources or going to the county clerk, the tax records, different mapping resources, old newspaper archives, all kinds of different things. So Find a Grave is a good resource. There's a lot of different resources out there. So we do have a video out on that. And like I said, I used to do a presentation on that, kind of a nuts and bolts for paranormal investigators. I've been doing the shadow people now for the past year. And there was a history in the paranormal working relationship presentation. I guess I've given different ones, but yeah, the research was definitely one.
So it's in the channel.
It's on the channel, yeah.
Somewhere in our 600
so
videos.
there's somewhere in the 600 videos. So yeah, there's an Inside the Upside Down, but we have a playlist that's what is it? Real ghost tips and tricks and how-tos is the playlist. I think that's the name of the playlist. So you can go into our playlist section on the channel and scroll down there. You'll find it. So we have a ghost hunting 101 in there. The research one is in there. Some other videos.
Hashtag binge watch with us.
Donna says you can get a job voicing audiobooks, but usually don't voice your own book. Actually, there are quite a few people do voice their own book, and I actually prefer it when the author does voice their own. I always find those better because they're able to put the passion into it and say the things and enunciate the things the right way or the way that they want it to be heard. J.R.R. Tolkien reading from The Hobbit and doing Gollum is that's awesome. Listening to that. Was a good one that I listened to recently. Some months ago, Gary Vee's latest book, Crushing It. He goes off topic, outside the text, all the time throughout it. So it's kind of funny and humorous to listen to. He's just kind of oh yeah, and on a side note, I just wanted to, and he just goes off on this tangent. All right, I'm gonna come back. It's this one's just for you, listener. This one's not in the book. He'll go off on something else. Yeah, there's some good ones out there where what's his name? Can't even think. Graham Hancock. He's got one of those, cool English voices, and he reads all of his own stuff. And I've found that because Graham does a lot of the ancient origins type of stuff that I've been listening to one now from Andrew Collins on Göbekli Tepe, and there's somebody else reading that book, and he mispronounces half the stuff of the different locations and even people's names, and it's really annoying. Where I know that if Andrew Collins was reading it, he would say those names the right way because I've seen I don't know how many interviews with him. So, yeah. So I prefer ones where the author's reading it. What else you guys got? And that's the writing process question. Okay, so I've picked all those. So, I don't know what else we got, guys. You guys are talking about RPA's app. Okay. Sharon Lane, would you like to do screenwriting for movies? Different skill set, but very interesting. Well, I mean, my fiction writing I've always seen as film. Yes, screenwriting is a different animal, and so I've had people suggest for the fiction stuff to put it into screenplays, and I've just never made that conversion. It's like it plays out in a movie in my head, but I have a manual on all different writing styles. Whether it's a great resource because it basically lays out how you do things like a synopsis, like how to do query letters, how to do outlines and all of that stuff when you're how to do your manuscript and format the actual like a book manuscript, how to do book proposals. And then one of them in there is screenplays. So, but I've never sat down to try to figure all that out. So, someone else can convert it to screenplay. I don't have time. So, Betty Ling, have you ever had a loss of words to describe your stories? I don't know. I'm kind of wordy.
Yeah, if I get started telling a story, I can tell a story, and go on and on and on. Writing it down is a whole different ballgame for me. I'm at a loss for words if I have to put it into writing, but I can tell a story just boom.
Yeah, my issue is when I'm at a quote unquote loss of words, it's because like even live here right now, my brain will jump ahead of what I'm speaking, and so then I'll get a little flustered or tongue-tied or whatever because my brain is gone like a minute into the future and my mouth is still catching up to what's already gone through my head. So then I'll be like, oh wait, try to keep it together. So that's when I'm like So
my thoughts are usually my own. I think every once in a while I hear voices. I don't think it's the kind that requires medication or anything, but just every once in a while. Every once in a while, I'm just like, it's like, who's that? I'm like, I don't feel
like
anybody.
Comments like this. Sharon Lane saying, Betty, the chat here is great because of people like you.
Yeah, Betty.
That's awesome.
Betty has a ton of questions.
Yeah, they're always great questions.
So does Sharon.
Yeah.
So do a lot of you down there. Then there's you lurkers. All you lurkers there.
So RPA, you're fine. You guys can chat about what you want.
Yeah.
You're fine to talk about your app. That's fine. Yep. It's okay.
What's the
I
app?
need to apologize. So I don't know. I caught bits and pieces of it. I was looking for the bold text for the questions. So
better not ask.
Tom McNicholas saying that's how news reporters work, Mike. So Betty Lang, you say, Mike, your mind is time traveling. Yep. Spooky says, first time I submitted a paranormal story to a magazine, they asked me to cut it in half. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the paper or magazine or whatever, and a lot of times they'll have submission guidelines or rules where they're like, we only want so many words or keep it between this or what have you. I mean, even for encounters. Even for our encounters, I said, about 500 to 1,500 words, and we had some that were less than 500 and some more that were more than 1,500. So, and I'm not strict. I'm like, I'm happy that somebody sent in a story and shared their experience. So I haven't been picky about that yet. But most people keep it between that, which has been good. Let's see, Melissa Smelko is saying, I'm a new lurker.
Ah, Called
a new
you
lurker
out,
comes
girl.
out. A new lurker comes out of hiding. That's
Called
awesome.
you out. All right. See?
Oh, that's hilarious. I love
It's
it.
funny.
I know who an old lurker is. Adam Tillery.
Yeah, Adam Tillery.
You know he's back there. Although he was a little bit more vocal in the Edge of the Rabbit Hole show. He was coming out of hiding there, probably because he saw some of his artwork being displayed.
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing artwork. Yeah, I mean,
Tammy
Adam,
Heitzman saying, I have no idea how long mine was. Yours was like right there in the middle somewhere. It was good. It was good.
I'm
And
gonna
very
write
well written, by the way. Tammy's a good writer.
Yeah, I haven't. I
was
didn't
impressed.
write it. I didn't read hers. Like I said, I only read the ones that I edited. And mine. I didn't even read yours.
You're behind.
I know. I suck. You know what? This is totally off topic, but go to, like, if you're not near It's Raining Zen, go to Republic of Tea, the website, and get their peppermint bark tea. Oh my God. It is so good. Like, I've been drinking it every night. I hope there's nothing like bad in it because it'll kill
It's
me.
good stuff.
I've been drinking a lot of it.
So, Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast says, question, when you get or hear a story, how do you decide if it's BS or not?
It's sorry. I'm the wrong person to ask about that because I don't trust many people. But at the
I don't know.
On the
I
other
guess
side,
I guess if it contains a guy named Zach and there's exclamation like oh, I mean I don't know.
I mean, there's
you-
a flip side for me. There's it'd be easier for me to tell if I could see the person when they're telling their story, you know, because you can see the written word or whatever, but you can't, you know, the energy that a person gives off, sometimes you can tell if it's BS or not. Your sense,
like Tammy
you
said,
just
it's a
tell that.
demon, dude. I don't think we've published one demon story.
Yeah, I think that everything that comes out of Zach's mouth is bullshit.
Yeah.
I
mean, I use him as an example, but there's a lot of people that claim that they're seeing demons all the time. I had somebody on one of our videos a few years ago saying that they've been a demonologist since they were 12 years old. I'm not going to believe that.
No,
You're not a
probably not.
demonologist at 12 years old. So, I mean, some of it is just like common sense, just common sense stuff. Now, if she was saying that she was not calling it a demon, but saying I was seeing this, I was seeing that, and just describing it, I guess that's a big thing, not labeling what specifically it is, and just saying this is what I saw. This, when there's dangly arms or something dark or whatever it is, just kind of describing the features and not labeling it. I'm more apt to believe that than somebody just saying, yeah, I saw a demon, boom.
I am pretty hardcore in my line of questioning whenever people tell me stories too. Because 99% of the time, the first thing I'm probably going to ask is if you're on any medication at all. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Because I want to know, is there something chemical causing you to hallucinate? You have something going on that requires medical attention, or are you haunted? Is there something going on? Are you actually seeing this stuff? That's why the whole people that, chemically hear voices, where they have like the imbalance, people that hear stuff, or where there's, brain scan to show there's something going on compared to someone who doesn't have that going on, but they still hear voices. What does theirs look like? I want to get, into the medical end of it. I want to know, like, this person has this going on and this is what their scan looks like. I don't have that going on, but I still hear voices and stuff. What does mine look like compared to what theirs look like? And then I want to compare it and see, okay, so this is what it looks like for someone who doesn't have this going on, but this is what it looks like. I'm going to ask if you're on medication. I mean, I just want to know, I want to know what you've got going on. It's none of my business, what you've got going on chemically, medically, whatever, but it's going to be in my mind.
But to some degree, it is when you're going into a case. Like, I mean, we don't do as much of them these days. But I mean, basically the
I hope
people.
I didn't offend anybody.
Basically,
by
the
that.
people. Basically, the people that ask us these days to go into like a residential case, we know or we have known or whatever. But like the prior incarnation of Society of the Haunted, when we were working out in Oklahoma, we were primarily residential cases. And so our case manager, one of the questions that she would ask, she had a list of them. She would ask about medications and mental illness in the family and all of that stuff. To try to weed some of that stuff out.
Because I want to know.
She would talk to him on the phone and get a feel for the person.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about body language too, or if that person can even look you in the eye, when they're telling stuff, or just, and a bit. Then it could also maybe they're just not comfortable talking about it yet, and that's why they're not looking me in the eye, or they're not able to look me in the eye because they don't want me to see they're a fraud, or they just want attention. Let's be on TV, something like that. Also, if someone's got something going on and I know that they've contacted someone on TV first, I can pretty much guarantee in my mind I'm going to think it's bullshit. They're just trying to get on TV. But if they're trying to low-key, I don't want anybody to know, and they're talking about it, that's probably legitimate. They don't want to put it out there. But people that want to put it out there, I got this, I'm going to call Zach, If you're trying to go to TV first, chances are I'm going to think it's bullshit. Just gonna say it.
Well,
just gonna put it out
and
there
I've
like
had
that.
people hit me up with stuff like, this is going on in the house, and there's a couple of networks in the past that have been interested in our story, but blah blah blah. They're not taking it. Do you want to take a look? As I guess thinking that maybe if I come in and take a look and give them some sort of credibility or backing, it will give like some sort of extra push for a network to pick up the story and get them on TV.
Right.
Like, hey, here's Mike Ricksecker. He's written these books, Haunted Road Media, blah, 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 blah. He says it's cool. So, I don't know. Not that much of what I've done lately has gotten on TV, but
believe it or not, it's not my goal to be on TV.
No, it's just happened a couple times, and it is what it is.
I mean, I've been on there. Everybody's been on my ghost story, and that's fine, And then once, for the goldenrod and stuff like that, but that wasn't for me, it was for the boat. So awareness to try to fucking save it, and. It is, but
right. I mean, the couple times, for me, so the haunted. That was when I was with a prior group, and she had already had those connections with the production company that did the haunted, which aired on Animal Planet, and so she was submitting a lot of our cases up for them, and there were 5 that we were working on that were in contention. 1 got taken, and that was the one we were working on. So it's not like I was trying to do anything. I was just a part of a group that happened to. And with my ghost story, they were sending out feelers to like everybody. So I end up with an email in my inbox, and so I looked it up. It's like, okay, this is legit. I'll answer the questionnaire. And I sent it back, and then they came back, okay, we'd like your story. We'd like to follow up on it. Okay, cool. The Ghost Adventures thing that happened but didn't. Jeff Belanger reached out to me over Twitter. And then next thing I know, I'm driving out to Oklahoma from Ohio for that. And we film, and my part didn't get used.
Asshole.
Which is expensive. And then the latest thing here was Russia. there's a TV station in Russia that wanted to ask me some questions about some different haunted locations, primarily here in the U.S. and then around the world. And so we just hooked up over Skype, and I answered some questions. So, and that's been it. It's not like I'm actively pursuing getting on any of these things. It's happened. That's it. So I actively pursue publishing books. That's what I actively pursue, publishing books, because I've been a writer since I was 7 years old. That has been my passion since I was very young. All of this is simply because I wanted to write. I wanted to write books. I put a meme out there several months ago. I threw it up there on Instagram that was basically I wanted to be a writer, but the world wanted more from me. And that's really been the case. Is I wrote my books, I wrote my stories. The Maryland book, I was asked to write it. I did not pursue that was my first ghost book. I'd had my mystery novel Deadly Airs out. I'd written a couple paranormal short stories. My editor for the Maryland book found me and asked me if I would like to write that book. So it's just, it's been asked of me. The way this channel started was, when I was putting out the Oklahoma book, and I already had the Maryland book out there, so I'm like interacting with people within the paranormal community, because this is, it's kind of, moving. I'd been on some of the different, kind of shows like this, where, being interviewed by some different people and places, and, I'm out there investigating a whole hell of a lot more. So it's just kind of like working up to there. And so, one of the ideas was to, take the stories that are in the Oklahoma book and do some videos on them and kind of show, rather than just tell in the book. It's a kind of basic principle of creative writing: show, don't tell. So what better way to show, especially these different cool, creepy, haunted locations, than to put it on video? And so it was just the Mike Ricksecker channel at that point. And then so the original videos, the older videos on here, were originally on that channel, and then it became Haunted Road Media a few years later. And as it kind of grew into, people asking me again and again and again the same questions about writing and how to get published and all of those sorts of things, and I'd answer those questions, and I'd throw them out to the wolves and give them some advice and throw them out to the wolves, and I'd kind of feel bad, because it's like I don't know, if that worked out for them, if they were able to handle that all right. I didn't know. And so, I kind of came up with the idea, well, why don't I just become the publishing company and help them through the process step by step? And so that's where this, came out of. So it's like, it's blown up into this over all the years, when I just wanted to write books. I just wanted to write my books. That's it. Here we are. So, all right. So, what do you guys got? Tom McNicholas: when you write your own story, no one can delete or edit you, Mike. Shauna edits me.
I edit him.
She edits me. I do make mistakes, because I'll be like, writing, and then when I go back, because I'll go back over it myself a couple of times. In my head, I know what the story says. I know the way it's supposed to read. So even when I go back and self-edit, I'll miss things, because I know the way it's supposed to be. But it might not actually be that way on the paper. So another set of eyes works. I will say that, like J.R.R. Tolkien, he would not take any edits to The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. You did not edit Tolkien. And so the publisher got that message right away. you don't edit Tolkien. That's kind of funny. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll probably go ahead and wrap it up. So, if you guys got anything else, throw it down there, and we'll do shout outs and all that. I'm starting to lose my voice. Mm-hmm. Even though I've been drinking all kinds of tea, in the first show, I let Vanessa take a lot of the chat, which I usually do, because we'll talk more in here. So, all right. let's go ahead and so Super Chat Superstars, Andrew Cox and Tom McNicholas. Thank you both very much for being Super Chat Superstars tonight. All right, so who do we got in here for shout-outs? We got, Donna, thanks for Cheshire Catting the chat. Appreciate that. There's Sharon Lane. Thank you very much, Sharon, for all the questions and everything tonight. Tracy Christian, thank you as well for watching. Tom McNicholas, Deep Down the Rabbit Hole, Patreon, happy birthday to you. So Deep Down the Rabbit Hole, Patrons. We've got Tom McNicholas, B3 Aerospace, Zippy Davis, BD Flint, Pamela Queen, Andrew Cox, and Joe Chandler. Thank you guys very much. So Melissa Smelko, thank you all. Have a good day. Thank you as well for joining us tonight. Melissa, really do appreciate that. Stick around. We do this every Tuesday, and then we have uploads on our Friday Night Ghost Frights on Friday nights. And I'm thinking I'm going to release that cemetery video tomorrow or Thursday as like a special. So there's Sean Gilmore. He's got the frowny face going on. Dude, it's after midnight in the East.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So there's Spooky. There's Dawn. You have a good night. Same Kathy Ciliento. Thanks for joining us tonight. Candy Orton. Thank you. So check out Candy's Variety Multimedia Network that she's come out with here. Great stuff on there, including Donna's new show, Willow's Bend. There's the Haglin. Thank you, the Haglin, joined us again tonight. Who else do we got? So, there's Beat3 Airspace. Very cool. Yeah, Beat3 Airspace, just let me know which book you'd like since you're already getting a copy of Encounters 4. Just choose. There's Fairy Queen, Diane Hilbert. Good to see you. Tammy Heitzman, thank you very much. She says, think you guys love these talks. We love these too. That's why we do them. Jill Nemchinsky, thank you very much for joining us tonight. There's Spooky. I think I said Dawn earlier. Betty Lange, yes, thank you for all the questions. Who else do we have?
Did we get our lurker?
Yeah, we did. That was Melissa Smelko. She was our lurker. I love that.
Yeah, that was funny.
Lurker. That was really funny. Rick Gabbard. Thank you for the questions tonight, hanging out tonight. Anybody who's new, please go ahead and subscribe. Appreciate that. We'll do another at 10,000, another drawing at 10,000. That'll be a big one. So, there's Real Paranormal Activity, I can't even speak now. Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast. Go check it out. Thanks for joining us tonight. Creatics, Corvus Arts, that was Mickey Dole. She already checked out. Anybody else? I think that's going to be about it. And Adam Tillery. And there's the other lurker, Adam Tillery.
Adam, whenever I finally decide to write my book,
I'm
going to be doing a lot of drawing, man. I got a lot of stuff.
Yep. I'll be doing the artwork.
Yeah.
Same deal as usual. All right. I guess that'll be about it. Whew. It's only Tuesday. It's already been a long freaking week. How is that possible?
We have some cool stuff coming up, though.
We do have some cool stuff because we're going to be back out investigating on Saturday. We've got we did all that traipsing through the woods this past Saturday. So
it was beautiful too.
It was.
Oh
I know you guys have seen a lot of the photos, but we have video footage of that coming up here. Like I said, the next day or two. I want to have. If not tomorrow, I want to have it out on Thursday, and then we'll do Friday Night Ghost Frights. So we'll have 2 videos there.
There's going to be something coming from that too, some research, because there's like a little girl.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little girl in my head now.
Yep.
So,
Sean's
why is she there?
Girl.
I don't know.
Yep. All right, everybody. You have a great night. We'll catch you later. Until next time.